So for now, I'm gonna give Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice a 2 out of 10.
Wow, that was the worst piece of crap I've ever seen.
I'm fixing the pics, I'm in start shit. I'm out of pictures to rip and shit to throw darts at. Ain't got no more targets. Shit, Irv and Jeff, we done beat them to death.
A YouTuber by the name of Cosmonaut Variety Hour, or as I'm going to be calling him, Marcus, made a video for his worst superhero movies of all time series, where he covered Batman vs Superman. And I had no intention to make a response or even watch the video. It's not because I couldn't stand to hear someone bash my Lord and Savior Zack Snyder. No, actually, I don't mind hearing opposing opinions. I think it can be interesting to see why the person feels the way they do, and how they came to that conclusion, and maybe show me things from a different perspective that I haven't considered. But the reason why I wasn't interested in viewing this video in particular is because I saw his tweets, and his intentions were clear. The Snyder Cut is coming out and getting attention, so why not make a video about its controversial predecessor? And I don't knock him for capitalizing on it, I respect the hustle, but I also knew that he didn't like the movie based on what he said in previous videos.
When Batman starts shooting people and killing them, then I get the idea that maybe someone doesn't understand the point of The Dark Knight Returns. And with that, I'm going to talk about how Zack Snyder doesn't understand the point of Batman or Superman. Man of Steel and Batman v Superman are a mess because Zack Snyder has no idea how these characters work.
So I knew where he stood, and I knew why he was making the video, so I didn't feel the need to give it any of my attention. However, I've been getting comments and messages non-stop since its release asking me for my opinion and to reply to it. So I finally gave it a watch, and honestly, it's worse than I thought it was gonna be.
Yes.
I genuinely feel that he didn't pay attention to the movie, because he has a misunderstanding of character motives and numerous scenes throughout. And before anyone asks, he did watch the Ultimate Edition. I don't feel it necessary to cover everything he mentions because a lot of his criticisms are things that have been said over and over again since the film's release. Things that have been addressed, explained, and debunked already. So I'm not going to go into extreme detail on those topics, instead I will bring them up again at the end and give some advice to Marcus. For now, let's get into the video and start addressing the issues I have with it. The theme of today is irony. Marcus sets it up right in the beginning when he claims Snyder doesn't understand Watchmen, Superman, and Batman. But then Marcus will go on to not understand several parts of the movie.
Let's take the guy who doesn't understand Watchmen and give him the rights to make Batman and Superman movies. I'm sure he'll do a great job. I don't think Zack Snyder likes Superman, so I think he made these movies to make the kind of Superman that he would want. So instead you get these movies with a bad Superman, and then eventually you get a bad Batman. And all across these three movies, these characters never improve in any way. The biggest problem with these movies is that he doesn't understand these characters.
Also, did anyone else notice that he said 3 movies?
And all across these 3 movies...
So he's including 2017's Justice League? Marcus, you're a sophisticated guy. You like superhero movies. That's most of what you talk about. I'm more than certain that you are well aware about the situation of 2017's Justice League and the extensive reshoots that happened from Joss Whedon and Warner Brothers. The theatrical version of Justice League wasn't Snyder's movie. I figured someone who talks about the genre as much as you do would know that. So we only got 2 movies from Snyder with these characters. We're gonna come back to his statement again about Snyder not understanding these characters later, but for now, let's just move on. I also think it's funny that he gives Marvel a backhanded compliment.
You can make a movie that has a boring-ass story, but if you make the main character relatable and interesting, it will still make money, and people will still go to watch it. Marvel has been doing this for years now. Most of these movies are not very ambitious as far as story is concerned. They are simply carried by their charismatic characters.
You say it like it's a good thing. That sounds pretty boring, and because of this, more than half of the MCU movies are skippable and don't stand out. I mean, Captain Marvel, Iron Man 2 and 3, Doctor Strange, Thor the Dark World, Far From Home, Ant-Man, both of them. Really underwhelming and forgettable movies, even if the leads are charismatic, as you put it. So before he gets into BVS, he spends 15 minutes talking about Man of Steel and what he doesn't like about it. Like the way it's shot, the section on Krypton, Superman's suit, the alien tech, the amount of action and destruction, and Superman killing Zod. So basically most of it. I was originally going to skip over this part because I wanted to get to BVS, since that's what's in the title. But it turns out he misunderstands and misrepresents several things in Man of Steel as well, so I figure we might as well address those too. If you just want to watch the BVS part, go and skip ahead to the timestamp here. Like I already mentioned, he said he isn't a fan of the way it's shot, the suit, or the alien tech, which is fine, that's just his preference. But he also seems to think that the movie is too long, and he doesn't like the intro section on Krypton.
Oh, and also, the movie itself is kind of boring, because it's too long. The opening scene is a good example of things being too long for no reason. I don't need to see Superman's dad flying around on a dinosaur and doing karate. I know the planet's gonna blow up, let's just speed it up. The movie is also 2.5 hours long, and if you look at the plot, it's kind of hard to understand where they're filling this time up, because it's not a complicated story.
I just want to touch on this because I don't think Man of Steel is much longer than any other movie in the genre. Most comic book movies always seem to stick between the 2 and 2.5 hour mark, so Man of Steel being 2 hours and 28 minutes isn't anything out of the ordinary, and I can't really think of many scenes that they could have taken out to make it shorter. And now the Krypton intro, I think it's interesting that he doesn't like it, because it is actually a more comic accurate version of Superman's homeworld. The ice cover Krypton that most people are aware of was created for the Richard Donner movie. I just find it interesting how he complains how unlike the comics this version of Superman is, but then complains about a comic accurate section. Also, this intro serves multiple purposes. One, it shows us Superman's homeworld and his father, since not many movies have spent that much time on them. We get a glimpse at their politics and the world he comes from. 2, it introduces us to the main antagonist as well as his relationship with Jor-El. And 3, it shows us a key item for the plot later on. But if you don't like this section, that's fine. I just think it's interesting that he doesn't. He then goes on to mention that the last third of this movie is nothing but action.
The last third of this movie is just blind mass destruction and violence. It's basically a 60-minute long Dragon Ball fight. And it's not like this movie even has the cool action directing that Snyder is known for. It's literally just characters slamming into each other for an entire hour. After a while, you just become desensitized to it. My eyes just glaze over as it keeps going, and it keeps drawing out, and I care less and less.
I always thought this was kind of a weird criticism, considering that most of the movies in the genre are mostly made up of action. Really what Man of Steel does differently is that it saves most of the action for the second half of the movie. On the topic of action, let's talk about the level of destruction in the film. So Marcus, what do you think?
And the destruction in this film is borderline apocalyptic. This is the fucking end of the world. Superman is just blowing through Metropolis without any regard for civilian casualties.
There's actually a really easy answer to why there's so much destruction. Because there would be. Superpower godlike beings fighting each other would cause a lot of destruction. If you look at the animated movies or cartoons where Superman fights, it almost always ends up destroying multiple buildings and parts of the city. So when that's shown in live action, now it's a problem. Also, most of the damage caused in the movie isn't even Superman's fault. But Marcus thinks it is, and he sees Superman as more of a war criminal.
This makes it even weirder in future movies when the characters in this world see Superman as a hero, because as far as I'm concerned, he's a war criminal. The first thing he does when he is publicly revealed is destroy the fucking city. He destroys the local 7-Eleven, the local Sears, and the local IHOP, and that kind of domestic terrorism would never be forgiven.
Yeah, no. He is responsible for smashing Zod through a 7-Eleven and a factory, I'll give you that. But that was Superman losing his temper because his mother was threatened. And that wasn't the smartest thing to do, but that was also kind of the point, more on that later. But the rest of the Smallville fight is him trying to fight off 2 equally powerful and better trained Kryptonians. And it's really just him getting his ass handed to him for most of the fight. How is that his fault? He didn't throw himself to that bank, he didn't take down the helicopter or jet. Now let's move on to Metropolis. That was destroyed by the World Engine while Superman was on the other side of the planet. He doesn't show up to Metropolis until after Zod's followers are all sucked through the Phantom Zone, and then the final battle starts. All of this damage is from the World Engine when Superman wasn't even around. And then from here they destroy a few more buildings, a parking garage, a satellite before finally crash landing. Most of the damage to the city wasn't caused by Superman because he wasn't even around for it. Now about Superman being seen as a hero in future films.
Even weirder in future movies when the characters in this world see Superman as a hero.
We're only including BVS because Justice League does not count. In this movie, he's seen more as an ally because he's the only one who stands a chance against Zod and his followers. And that's only after the military starts shooting at him. Before then, they also consider him a threat. And even at the end, they're still uncertain.
How do we know you won't one day act against America's interests?
I grew up in Kansas, General. About as American as it gets.
But we don't really get to see how people feel about him until the next movie. And the biggest plot point for BVS is that most of the people don't see him as a hero and reject him, including Bruce Wayne. It's only after he sacrifices himself to kill Doomsday that people actually accept him. He mentions that he hates that Superman killed Zod, and this again is something I never understood why people hated.
And to top it off, it ends with Superman murdering Zod, which is just so very wrong. I've already clowned on this scene before, so I'm not gonna repeat myself too much. If you're strong enough to snap his fucking neck and leave a shockwave afterwards, then why don't you just aim his face somewhere else? You didn't even try!
After this, he goes on to explain who Superman is as a character, but I want to talk about the Zod neck break a little bit more. How else could he have finished the fight? And yes, he probably could have turned his head away from the family, but they have been fighting and no progress has been made, and Zod made it clear that he will kill as many humans as possible.
I'm going to make them suffer, Cal. These humans you've adopted. I will take them all from you one by one.
This is an opportunity to put an end to it. Also, this isn't something he did happily like in the Richard Donner Superman. He begs Zod to stop, kills him, then he lets out a cry and sobs afterwards. This isn't something that he wanted to do, but it shows that he's willing to make a hard decision to save others. This is also Superman siding with humanity by taking out the only other member of his race. He's letting his race die so mankind could survive. Next, he says the best Superman stories are the ones that explore his humanity.
The best Superman stories focus on his humanity because that's the key to making us like him. He was raised on Earth, he was raised by humans, and his full life of experiences up to this point is that of a human on Earth. He's a human first. A human that just so happens to also be an alien. And this is something that I have never seen written well in a Superman movie.
This is interesting to me because this whole movie is about Clark Kent finding himself. People go into this movie assuming that Superman is going to have all these traits right off the bat. That isn't this Superman yet. This is a journey to the version of Superman that people are more familiar with. This whole movie is a learning experience for him, and is actually a more human version of Clark. He knows he's different and knows nothing about his past and feels lost with his place in the world and has been seeking answers. And throughout the whole movie, he shows us that he isn't infallible. From little things like taking some clothes from someone's car instead of asking for them, or destroying this douchebag's truck. Both scenes that Marcus isn't a fan of.
Take this simple scene of Clark washing up on shore after saving people in the beginning of the movie. He doesn't have any clothes, and he just sees some clothes lying around. Clark finds the unattended clothing outside, he takes them, and he continues on his way. But what if we take the opportunity to have a cute character moment that's specific to Superman? I personally don't think Clark Kent would steal clothes even if he really needed them. I could see him awkwardly going up to the door and asking for the clothes. This would be a cute chance to have some fun dialogue showing that Clark is nice almost to a fault. In this movie, while we are being introduced to Clark Kent, we see him attempt to stand up to a guy who's harassing a waitress. Clark then gets bullied by the man and gets so embarrassed that he goes outside and does this to his truck when nobody is looking. This is pretty fucking sinister. Clark Kent doesn't exact revenge on people in petty ways like this.
If you thought this was a dick move, that's because it was. Again, this isn't the perfect Superman who makes all the right choices all the time. This Superman makes mistakes. In this case, he stole some clothes and destroyed a truck. Later on, he loses his temper when his mother is threatened and crashes through a factory and gas station. This is all part of the learning experience. Marcus thinks the laziest thing that you can do is compare Superman to Jesus.
I think the laziest shit that you can do with this character is compare him to Jesus. And that's all Zack Snyder does. Do you get it, guys? What does this remind you of?
Superman has been compared to Jesus throughout his whole existence, because he's always been portrayed as a powerful, godlike being, and a beacon of hope with ideals to strive towards. And in many comics throughout his existence, he's been compared to Jesus or presented as like a messiah figure. This is nothing new to the character. And Man of Steel is literally just two scenes where the symbolism is blatantly obvious.
And that's all Zack Snyder does.
Come on, son.
Next, we're going to talk about his parents, mainly Jonathan Kent. Marcus feels that he was mishandled in this movie.
And in this movie, his dad is so fucking obsessed with Clark hiding his identity that he dies for it. No, stop, my invincible son. Do not save my life. A core value of Jonathan and Martha Kent is that they encourage Clark to use his powers to help people. But in this movie, Jonathan Kent tells Clark that he should have let children die as opposed to revealing his powers.
What was I supposed to do? Just let him die?
Maybe.
What the fuck?
So Jonathan Kent is determined to keep Clark's abilities a secret, because he knows how people would react if they knew the truth, and he didn't want him to face the consequences until he was ready, which by the way, turns out he's right in PBS with how the world reacts to his existence. That's why he didn't want him to save him in front of all those people. He wants Clark to show himself to the world when he's good and ready. Now as for letting the kids drown, he doesn't say yes, he says maybe, because he doesn't know the answer. He doesn't want Clark to face people like Pete's mother until he's old enough and ready, because he knows he's going to change everything when people realize what he can do, and he doesn't want him to go through that until he's old enough. And more importantly, when Clark chooses to do it. A big theme throughout the whole movie is freedom of choice. On Krypton, every Kryptonian is bred for a purpose, and they have no freedom of choice. Superman's parents thought that was something special that Krypton has lost. So when the world was ending, they sent away their only son with the DNA of every Kryptonian so that he can forge his own destiny. And then on Earth, Jonathan Kent wants to keep Clark secret until he's ready and chooses when to expose himself to the world. It's all about what Clark wants. And that's going to do it for the bulk of his main criticisms. He also isn't a fan of Lois Lane, but I enjoy her, but I understand most of his points there. I do like seeing her using her reporter skills to track down Superman and find out who he is. I think it's a bonus that we have a Lois Lane that's actually smarter than previous versions. That's going to do it for the Man of Steel section. Now it's time to talk about Batman vs. Superman. So he starts off this section talking about this film's version of Batman. I'm going to be addressing these critiques later, but for now, I want to cover things that he gets wrong or just doesn't understand. Also, I'm not going to be addressing most of his nitpicks like these.
Wait, so you're telling me this guy only just now realized that evacuating is a good idea? Bro, if I see the alien ship destroying the city 2 blocks away, my ass is already out the building.
Are you a terrorist, General?
What kind of journalist would ask that question? Anyway, let's not worry about that. Let's instead look at one of the many unintentionally funny scenes of the movie. Why is he crawling on the ceiling like Spider-Man?
These are just that, nitpicks, and they don't hold any real weight and don't affect anything in the grand scheme of things. It could be entertaining and fun to find and make fun of these little things, but I don't see most of them really causing an issue. Right in the beginning, we get a taste of his misunderstanding of scenes.
Also, can I just say, what the fuck is this scene for? We don't even know these people. Okay, so it's implied that someone is trying to frame Superman and make him look more violent than he is.
So you ask what this scene is for and who these people are, and then a few seconds later you say it's to frame Superman. You answered your own question, but you also misunderstood this scene. This wasn't to show Superman to be more violent than he is. This scene was to frame Superman by showing that his actions of getting involved caused people in the village to get killed, and he is framed by Lex Luthor's goons by killing everyone and lighting them on fire. And then he has this woman lie to the Supreme Court and say that Superman's action is what caused the massacre of her village.
We have Lex Luthor trying to coerce a congresswoman into giving him access to more kryptonite, even though he already has kryptonite.
That's not what he wants. He has the kryptonite. What he wants is an import license to bring it in legally. He could smuggle it in, which is what he ends up doing, but what he's doing here is using the kryptonite as leverage to get what he wants. In a previous scene, he makes a deal with this military guy to get access to the ship and Zod's body, in exchange to help weaponize the kryptonite. But she ends up putting a slight damper in his plans by not giving him the import license. And the current amount he has isn't big enough to weaponize. I know Marcus basically said a simplified version of that, but I want to explain it because in a bit he's going to forget that this conversation between them even happened.
See, the weird thing is, in this movie, both Batman and Lex Luthor want to defeat Superman. It would make sense to me if Zucker Lex or Bruce approached the other person and was like, hey, we don't like Superman. Let's fucking kill him. But no, that can't happen because Lex also wants Batman and Superman to fight each other. You may ask, why? Well, I can't tell you because I don't know.
Why would Bruce Wayne want to work with Lex Luthor? It's made very clear in the movie that he's untrusting due to losing people close to him and seeing good people turn bad.
20 years in Gotham, Alfred. We've seen what promises are worth. How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way?
Bruce would rather steal it and keep it for himself instead of having it end up in the wrong hands. Also, Bruce doesn't know that Lex knows that he's Batman. Pretty certain he would want to keep that a secret. So asking Lex Luthor about Kryptonite wanting to team up wouldn't be a good way to keep that secret. Especially since Bruce had to steal the information to find out what the White Portuguese is and what it's carrying.
Not a great plan.
Now, Lex wants Batman to fight Superman because he wants to accomplish two things. Expose Superman as a fraud and kill Superman.
God is all powerful. He cannot be all good. And if he is all good, then he cannot be all powerful. And neither can you be. They need to see the fraud you are.
He spends time pushing Batman into wanting to kill Superman because he knows he has the best chance, especially using the kryptonite that he wants Bruce to steal. And it was shown in the email that Bruce sent to Diana that he was looking into other powerful beings. Could have been a possibility that he was looking into one of them to kill Superman, but Batman is right across the harbor in Gotham City and has already been growing increasingly violent over the years, so it would be easy to sway him into wanting to kill Superman by framing him with the incident in the desert, blowing up the Capitol building, and sending him notes to further fuel his rage.
Ripe fruit, his hate. 2 years growing, but it did not take much to push him over, actually. Little red notes. Big bang, you let your family die!
And at the same time, he is swaying Superman to not like Batman. Here's another example of Marcus misrepresenting a scene.
So he hires one of Bruce's old employees who lost his legs during the last movie's final battle so that he can sue Superman for being evil. Lex Luthor then gives that guy a cool robot wheelchair, and then he blows it up in the courthouse, killing everybody except Superman. Also, I love Superman's reaction to witnessing the deaths of everybody in the courthouse. Doesn't really seem to mind that much. Oh, and instead of staying to help the people who have just fucking been bombed, he flies away. You don't need to be a comic book expert to know that Superman would never do that.
Yes, he did use this guy to blow up the Capitol building, which was to incite rage in Bruce Wayne, and to show the public that wherever Superman goes, chaos follows, even though he's not directly responsible for it. Marcus claims that Superman doesn't look upset about it, and then he flies away. I don't know what you mean. He shakes his head and looks upset with himself because he couldn't stop it. And then outside, he can be seen pulling people from the wreckage, but then is told that they got it from there, clearly showing that they don't want his help. It's only then does he fly away because clearly he isn't wanted.
Oh, and since we have to cram as much shit into this movie as possible, Wonder Woman watches YouTube videos of all the other Justice League members so that we can force some sequels and spin-offs.
This is in the movie because this is the information that Bruce took from Lex Luthor at the same time he got the information about the kryptonite. Yes, it is to introduce and set up future DC movies, but it also works into the plot because it shows that Lex was looking into other superpowered beings. He seems a bit confused by Lex Luthor's plan and thinks it's a bit convoluted, mainly Doomsday and how he knew Batman wanted to kill Superman.
Lex Luthor's fucking 4D chess multi-layered plan also involves taking Zod's corpse, mixing it with his DNA, and creating a monster. What are you trying to accomplish? I've said this before, but I really don't like when a villain's plan is that he can just anticipate anything, because it comes across as the plan just being fucking dumb. What happens if Elastigirl doesn't do any of the things that you told her to do? How does he know that Batman has a vendetta against Superman? How does he know that he even wants to kill him? Did you fucking ask him? Did you call him on the phone? Also, how do you know that mixing your blood with the corpse of an alien will resurrect it and turn it into a monster? Nobody told you that.
So a few things here. The Senator doesn't do the things he wants. He wants an import license from her and doesn't get it. Remember, you pointed out that he wanted more kryptonite, but she said no? So she was pushing back against Lex Luthor. She's against bringing in the kryptonite to use as a weapon. He knows mixing his blood with Zod will create a monster because there's a scene where he's in the ship and starts learning as much as he can. You used a part of that scene in your video.
The Kryptonian archive contains knowledge from 100,000 different worlds.
Good. Teach me.
Acknowledging presence of foreign genetic material. Advising. Action forbidden. It has been decreed by the Council of Krypton that none will ever again give life to a deformity so hateful to sight and memory, the desecration without name.
So that's where he learned to do it. And he creates Doomsday as a failsafe. If you listen in the background, it doesn't get to the final stage until after the hour he gave Superman is up.
Late, says the White Rabbit.
40 seconds to animation.
Right Rabbit and one bat head short.
30 seconds to animation.
So if Batman kills Superman, he can just end the process. If Superman kills Batman, then he's got Doomsday to fall back on. And if Superman kills Lex, then Doomsday is a ticking time bomb. Now, he doesn't know for certain that Batman wants to kill Superman, which is why he pushes him into wanting to do it. Like I said earlier, he knows Batman is getting more violent, so why not see how far you can push him? By sending him the checks back with messages on them that he was intercepting, manipulating the news to make Superman look bad like in the beginning and blowing up the Capitol building.
But it did not take much to push him over, actually. Little red notes. Big bang, you let your family die!
And at the same time, he is swaying Superman to not like Batman, by having the criminals killed that he sends to prison, and sending the images of it to Clark. Now let's go over the fight.
It doesn't matter, it's time to fight, time to have the battle that the movie's named after. Pow! Pew pew! Byong! Oh no, Batman's losing. Time to use a smoke bomb to trick the man who has X-ray vision. So fucking stupid. Oh look, now Batman's winning because he farted on Superman. And this scene really reads like it was made by someone who greatly prefers Batman over Superman. Pow pow! Bam! Bonk! Batman wins the fight! It's dumb. I'm not gonna waste any more time on it.
Clearly he wasn't amused. So a few things here. First, the smoke bomb. Earlier in the movie you can see grenades that had the symbol for lead on them. So it wouldn't be far-fetched that Bruce learned about Superman not being able to see through lead from the information he stole from Lex. Because earlier we saw that Lex used lead to hide the bomb from Superman. So he more than likely mixed it in with the smoke grenade. Second, the reason Batman kicks his shit in is because he not only planned to fight Superman, but he also rendered him weak by using the kryptonite. Superman didn't plan to fight until he was forced to. He also didn't think that he was going to get hit with something that could weaken him. Also like to mention that a popular discussion amongst comic book fans and superhero fans is that Batman could potentially defeat anyone if given enough prep time. I mean, he's got plans for the whole Justice League and he's even killed Darkseid. So the fight being one-sided isn't surprising, considering the planning and the advantage he had with the kryptonite. And then we get to the most misunderstood scene in the whole movie.
However, right before Batman uses the magic alien spear to execute Superman, the dumbest shit in the movie happens. Superman, in his dying moments, refers to his mother by her first name, which causes Batman to realize, oh my gosh, he's literally me. Who the fuck refers to their mother by their first name, especially as your final words before you are being killed? This is the one thing that stops Batman's murder quest cold turkey. He switches to being Superman's fucking best friend so fast that I thought I missed a scene of them actually reconciling.
I don't think it's weird that Superman called his mother by her first name. What did you want him to say? Save my mom? He only has a few moments left, so he pleads for the life of another, and tries to get out as much as possible so that maybe Batman could save her. Because he didn't go to Batman with the intention of fighting.
I have to go to Gotham to convince him to help me.
Bruce, please. I was wrong. You have to listen to me.
And his reaction isn't someone who's just noticing a coincidence. He's basically having a PTSD flashback. He's panicking right now thinking about his parents' death. And I wouldn't say he became Superman's best friend. If you look at him, he looks like he's begging for a chance to save her. Maybe in a way by saving her, he can find peace in not being able to save his own mother. So now that the fight between Batman and Superman happens, it's time for the final battle with Doomsday.
And this is officially where the movie enters the realm of being too stupid to be forgiven. This movie has officially become a bad video game. There's not even anything I can say about this. They're just slamming into each other. And then Wonder Woman shows up, and she slams into him. And then Batman watches because he's just a regular guy.
She with you?
I thought she was with you.
What? You've met her, Batman. She's your friend. You're the one who knows her. You know who she is.
If you noticed in Man of Steel and here, he keeps describing the fights as just slamming into each other. That's because that's basically how a lot of these fights go. They basically knock each other back and forth until one of them gets the advantage. Especially with Doomsday because he keeps getting stronger and stronger and shows that he's stronger than all three of them. Also, this line right here.
She with you?
I thought she was with you.
Was referring to the fact that she just deflected Doomsday's heat vision, and he was guessing that she was another Kryptonian or alien until Superman asked if she was with him. Clearly he knows who she is, he sent her the email. And then Marcus just says this.
Also, I love that on 2 separate occasions we have to have characters say that the places they're fighting in are abandoned.
Stryker's Island, east of Metropolis.
That's uninhabited.
Why did you bring him back to the city?
The port is abandoned.
Because, ooh, we can't make fun of this movie. Please don't make fun of my movie. See, the final battle didn't kill any innocent people.
Yes, it's strange that the military and Wonder Woman would be worried about civilians getting hurt. Come on, man.
So yeah, Superman totally dies, like for real. Not clickbait. And the civilians that hate him mourn his death, and the guy who only knew him for an hour mourns his death.
I failed him. Life.
Dude, you tried to stab him to death in a dirty warehouse. You weren't fucking friends.
Yes, people mourn his death because he gave his life to stop Doomsday. People were so concerned about his intentions and questioned his existence, but after he sacrificed himself, they realized that they were wrong about him. Also, Batman is mourning because he feels partly responsible for his death, since he was so blinded by rage and fear and planned to kill him. Also, about failing him, he's referring to failing him as a hero. Batman has fallen so far from his morals that it's through Superman's death that he realized that he should have followed his example.
And Batman threatens to brand him like a cow and send him to Arkham Asylum to be murdered. Just to remind you that Batman did not learn his lesson.
Batman does learn his lesson if you listen to the speech at the end.
Men are still good. We fight, we kill, we betray one another. But we can rebuild. We can do better. We will. We have to.
Mankind makes mistakes, but it can get better because there is still good left in mankind. And through Superman's example, he's going to be better. That's why he says he won't fail him in death.
I failed him in life. I won't fail him in death.
He also doesn't brand Lex at the end. He more so just scares him instead and punches the wall beside him, showing that he has changed. And now that Luthor is considered criminally insane, he wants to send him to Arkham to keep an eye on him.
I'm insane. I'm not even fit to stand trial.
That's right. We have hospitals to treat the mentally ill with compassion. But that's not where you're going. I arranged for you to get transferred to Arkham Asylum in Gotham.
It blows my mind that there are people who watch this movie and like it.
That's hilarious coming from the guy who likes Captain Marvel and The Last Jedi. People in glass houses, Marcus. Or you know what? How about you recommend me a game? What were you thinking? The Last of Us 2?
Joel is not a fucking beloved character.
Get the fuck out of here. Now let's talk about this interpretation of Batman. Marcus clearly isn't a fan of it.
And I fully believe that there are some things you should never change when it comes to Batman. Number 1, Batman doesn't use guns. Number 2, Batman doesn't kill people. Number 3, Batman doesn't use fucking guns to kill people. So it's no surprise that his version of Batman gets rid of all nuance and just distills him down to an angry punching man. Now, if you're the kind of person who thinks Batman should kill people because it's more realistic, well, that's okay, but you and I can't be friends if you think that way. His core value is that he values life above everything else. Because his world was shattered by a random act of violence, and he wants to prevent anyone from feeling the pain that he felt that day. And I'm really not trying to gatekeep superheroes over here. You can have different interpretations of the character, but I'm just saying there are a lot of things about these characters that people ignore because movies get them wrong as well. We look at Spider-Man and we accept the fact that he doesn't kill people because he's a cute, fun guy and he's nice, and if he killed people it would make us sad. But Batman is an old grumpy guy, so people just assume he's supposed to murder people. If you ask me, this mentality is pretty dumb, and Zack Snyder is one of the people who thinks this way.
I think it's hilarious he uses a panel from a comic where he used a gun to say Batman shouldn't use guns. Now I agree that there are different interpretations, and this is one of them, but his biggest issue is the killing. He mentions it in the beginning and then later on, and he uses this clip from an interview with Zack Snyder to help illustrate this.
You know, I tried to do it in that sort of technical way. I tried to do it like by proxy, shoot the car that they're in, the car blow up.
That counts as killing!
I've covered this before in a video from a while ago, but I'll go over it again here. When it comes to Batfleck, the goal was not to have a young Batman. It was to have a Batman who's been at it for 2 decades, who has lost those close to him, his parents, Robin, and seen others go bad.
20 years in Gotham, Alfred. We've seen what promises are worth. How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way?
But more importantly, he's lost his way. After he brands the criminal, Alfred approached him and says,
New rules.
We're criminals, Alfred. We've always been criminals. Nothing's changed.
It has, sir. That's how it starts, sir. The fever, the rage, the feeling of powerlessness that turns good men cruel.
He's talking about Bruce here. He's telling him that he's turning cruel. And hell, the intro of the movie is Bruce talking about his own fall from grace, referring to Batman as a beautiful lie.
In the dream, they took me to the light. A beautiful lie.
He's a shell of his former self. This isn't the Batman we know anymore, and this has led to a more reckless and uncaring Batman. And that's the biggest thing people get wrong about this interview with Zack Snyder.
You know, I tried to do it in that sort of technical way. I tried to do it like by proxy, shoot the car that they're in, the car blow up.
What Snyder is doing is describing Batman's reasoning for doing what he's doing, killing by proxy. Yes, which is still killing, but he's describing the way Batman sees it. If a guy has a grenade and is going to throw it at him, tough shit, should have stayed home. If a minigun is shooting at him and he takes out the car that's attached to and blows it up, too bad, you shouldn't have been in the way. And the movie isn't presenting this as if it's the right thing to do. If you think this is wrong or questionable for Batman to do, then you're right. Which is why after Superman's death, he says he failed him in life but won't fail him in death.
I failed him in life. I won't fail him in death.
He failed him as a hero, and this will be the start of Batman going back to the hero with a code of morals like he used to be. Now I want to talk about the comments in the beginning of the video about Snyder not understanding these characters.
So let's take the guy who doesn't understand Watchmen and give him the rights to make Batman and Superman movies. I'm sure he'll do a great job. The biggest problem with these movies is that he doesn't understand these characters.
I'm going to argue that he does understand these characters, but he wanted to explore them in a way that hasn't been done before in film. He wanted to re-establish Superman from the ground up and build him to be the Superman that we're all familiar with. He originally had a 5-movie arc plan for Superman to get him to the optimistic and bright character that we all know. And he wanted to look at Batman and see what would it take for him to lose his way and what would it take to get him back on the right path. And that's why we get a Superman who doesn't make all the right choices. He's still learning and growing. And that's why we get a gritty Batman who strayed far from his path. But because of Superman, he learns just how lost he became. Marcus actually leaves in the perfect rebuttal to most of his arguments, because a lot of it comes down to these characters being not comic accurate or mishandled or misrepresented.
Now you might be saying, Marky, you said it's okay for movies to change stuff from the comics, but sometimes you get upset when they make a change. And I didn't think I'd have to explain this outright, but I don't think some people get it. I've always said that changes are good if they work in the context of that story. I always say I like how the Mandarin is changed in Iron Man 3 because I think for that story, it makes perfect sense. But then I also said that I don't like the movie version of Civil War because the comic book version to me has a lot more emotional significance. It's a comic book storyline that was built up over a much longer period of time, and I think that they should have done that with the movie version. My general idea is that I'm open to change in a comic book movie if the change works. I'm not one of those people who's immediately gonna write off a comic book movie because it's not accurate. The Aquaman movie is very different from the comic books, but I think it is different in a way that works. This movie feels wrong on every level because it doesn't improve Superman with any of these changes. The changes make him worse.
I actually agree with him here, but of course it's all subjective and comes down to your own personal preference. I feel this version of Superman is good in Man of Steel and BVS because it works for the story they're telling. Clearly, he doesn't, and someone can look at the Mandarin in Iron Man 3 and say, I don't like it because they changed the character so much to the point where he could be switched out for any other terrorist and it wouldn't make a difference. You could call him Osama and the story would remain the same. So that character was changed for the worse, and it doesn't help the story at all. And that's basically how Marcus feels about these two movies. He believes that the changes were for the worse, while I believe that they were for the better, and it helps the story that they were telling. And that's going to cover everything I want to talk about. I didn't go over every little thing he mentioned, and you probably noticed a lot of these critiques have been said over and over again and not really anything new. It's really a lot of the same regurgitated shit that people have said since these films released, and they've been addressed time and time again.
Pay attention, you're saying the same shit that he said.
But I felt like making this video since a lot of his criticisms seem to be from misunderstandings that he has about these movies. I don't know if it's because he didn't pay attention, or simply because he didn't care because he doesn't like these movies. So I would like to recommend you a few videos that you could watch to get a better grasp on it. Nearly all your criticisms for Man of Steel and BVS have been addressed and explained in these collection of videos by Twin Perfect. From the characters' portrayals and motives, Lex Luthor's plan, Zod, the destruction, all of it. And if you want to dive deeper on that, there's these couple videos that dive deep into the symbolism, as well as another really good analysis. But in the end, it all comes down to your own preference, and I can't make you like these versions of the characters or the movies. But I felt like this video was just ramblings on why you don't like it without actually trying to understand it, and either intentionally or unintentionally misrepresenting scenes and motives throughout these two movies. But anyway guys, that's gonna do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, go and drop a like on it. Now I'm gonna go play some Cyberpunk. Oh wait, never mind.
I can't even wash my face without this damn game crashing, man.